Adonis Stevenson.
One of the most disappointing things about boxing is when you get a fight that is in high demand and makes perfect sense, yet for one reason or another never takes place. And one of the most common questions you will get asked during retrospective boxing discussions is what fights you think should have happened that didn't, and what fights you would have loved to have seen. Whenever I get asked that question, one fight that immediately comes to my mind is the undisputed fight at light heavyweight between Sergey Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson. Nordic Warrior here, hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to my fantasy fight series. Today we're going to be talking about a fight that, in my personal opinion, was an absolute disgrace that it never took place. Now, people have their own opinions as to why the fight never happened. Some blame Adonis Stevenson for ditching HBO and moving over to Showtime. Others blame Sergey Kovalev for not taking part in the WBC's purse bid, which may have led to the fight. Whatever your opinion is, and whoever is to blame, the fact of the matter is that the fight should have happened, and there was absolutely no reason for it not to. For those of you who don't know, Kovalev and Stevenson have quite a lot of things in common. For one, they were both light heavyweight champions at the same time. They were both devastating knockout punchers. They were both tremendously exciting fighters who had a reputation for being avoided for a time, and to top it off, both of their careers ended in an absolute disaster. Today I wanted to propose a theory, an alternate timeline of events, and speculate on what would have happened had these guys decided to fight each other in their primes, and who would have won and why. So let's talk about it. First of all, I think that one of the things that would have made this fight so entertaining is the intensity of it. It would have been one of those fights where you wouldn't want to blink. One of those fights where you just know that either guy could be rendered unconscious at any moment of the fight. Not only did both guys have that kind of power, but both guys had suspected vulnerabilities too. Stevenson was knocked out cold by Darnell Boone, and Kovalev at the time was surrounded by rumours of his chin being dented in sparring by Gennady Golovkin, and he had also reportedly been dropped by Boone himself. So the fight would likely have been car crash TV, similar to watching a David Price fight. The two guys did have some differences though. Stylistically, Stevenson was a lot more crude and unorthodox, whereas Kovalev was the far more skilled and refined boxer of the two, which makes sense since Kovalev was a high-level amateur who has been boxing his entire life, and Stevenson was a late starter. Kovalev has a variety of punches in his arsenal, such as a great jab, one of the best and hardest and most accurate jabs in light heavyweight history. He also had a great right hand, a brutal left hook, and was a very prolific body puncher. He would keep you under control with his jab, and he would jab you to the chest and the arms or the midsection, and he was so unpredictable in his prime. Great boxing fundamentals and pretty good defense too. Stevenson, on the other hand, has one A+ punch, and that was his straight left hand. The power he was able to generate on his straight left hand was fantastic. But other than that, he didn't really have much else. He had an okay right hook, but it was never really anything special. Stevenson was also a lot more reckless with his aggression, and tended to waste a lot of energy early on. Since most of his fights tended to end early, he was able to get away with this. Taking all this into consideration, I have a pretty clear idea of who I think would have won and how the fight would have went. In the early rounds, I would give Adonis Stevenson a solid puncher's chance. He had a long reach and was quite adept at landing his straight left from halfway across the ring, and that always gave him a chance early on, particularly if he was able to keep the fight at a distance. Very dangerous fighter from long range. However, providing Sergey Kovalev was able to survive the first few rounds, I think his superior boxing skills and his superior punch variety would start to take over the fight. Kovalev had the better stamina. In his prime, he was able to pace himself for 12 rounds very easily, and the longer the fight lasted, the more it would suit him. I think as the fight went on, Kovalev's jab would start to touch Stevenson's chin more often, and Stevenson would start to get desperate and would get closer and closer to walking into Kovalev's straight right hand. Once that starts to happen, and once the straight right hand starts to land with any regularity, the fight would be all but over, with Kovalev in complete control. Another reason I favour Kovalev is the fact that Kovalev to me seemed way more confident and competent on the inside. He knew how to avoid clinches and how to wrestle and had a surprising amount of physical strength. Stevenson never really struck me as a gritty fighter, and many times throughout his career he showed he could be manhandled and put under pressure against lesser competition. So long story short, had Kovalev and Stevenson taken place when both guys were world champions, I would favour Kovalev, and I think the most likely outcome is a mid to late knockout, with Kovalev perhaps surviving a scare in the early rounds to come back and dominate the action, breaking Stevenson down and knocking him out. That's pretty much how I see the fight. Let me know what you guys think. Stay tuned for more fantasy fights as well as more retrospective boxing videos. Thanks for watching and God bless.